the Teaching and Learning Subcommittee to order, please? And I will turn it right over to Ms. Roy and her team.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you for having us tonight. We have the majority of the curriculum team, curriculum and assessment management team here with us tonight, as well as Principal Ahern. And tonight what we'd like to do is we'd like to give you an update on progress on what we consider 3 timely and relevant items for this time of the year going into February. So as you can see from tonight's agenda, we've got the digital learning team updates from Ed Smith and Nick Ahern. MCAS preparation will be a combination of Bridget Bond, Kim McLean, and myself. And then some wonderful science curriculum updates from Erin, Ed, and Beth, spanning pretty much pre-K to 12. So I'd like to turn it over to Nick.
Thank you, folks, for having me tonight. I have the honor to serve not just as the principal of Marshall, which is my home away from home place I love, but also serve alongside Erin as the chair of the digital learning team for the elementary school. The team has met 2 years, and digital learning has been something that's been near and dear to my heart. I came into the system many, many years ago as a technology and engineering teacher, running Lego robotics programs, got 17 years ago. So it's something that for years has been a love of mine, and something that certainly is a passion I have as well. The team that we have meets 5 times a year. It's voluntary. It's partnered by a staff member from each of the elementary schools in the city. Again, we're happy to have those folks. We meet generally after school, about 3 o'clock to 4:30 here at Coddington. We've met 2 times this year and have 3 more scheduled meetings upcoming going forward. And in terms of the cross-section of the staff that are on the team, we're also happy that we have kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade staff members there, so it's not just heavy on the upper elementary side. We have an occupational therapist, literacy staff, and then we're also joined not just by principals, but also system administration, Ms. Quinn, Catherine Carey as well. So it's a great cross-section of folks who see a broad array of things in the elementary school world and offer really an awful lot to the conversation there. We're looking forward certainly to our next meeting on February 7th, where we will continue to unpack the state's newer digital literacy and computer science standards, and also plan for Digital Literacy Week at the elementary school going forward. As we look to this year, the team set 3 goals to focus on, knowing that these goals would keep us focused. Digital learning can go in a lot of different directions. There's certainly a lot out there. Looking at the first team goal, our goal is to understand not just hardware, but more importantly software, and how it effectively supports educational outcomes in the classroom. Team members reference programs like Think Central, First in Math, Reading Eggs, Lexia, Google Classroom, and Aspen, which are a lot of programs that I'm sure you're very familiar with in the system. But we also learned, and I certainly learned things that staff were interacting with, programs like Seesaw, which is a digital learning portfolio, Go Noodle, which is a program that supports movement and mindfulness in the classroom, Kahoot, a site based on to build online assessments, Plickers, which is a classroom tool that allows for immediate formative assessment feedback, Classroom Dojo, a classroom management tool, the Remind app, which some staff use to communicate with parents, and tools like Osmo at the elementary level as well. So to be clear, these are certainly not being used in every classroom in the city and at every grade level, but they're just a cross-section of apps and programs, newer apps and programs out there that really support and promote digital learning in the elementary schools. And a lot of them things I didn't know about. So really nice chance to learn. We also wanted to celebrate digital learning in the fall. And what better way to do it than through the Hour of Code program, which exists out there. The Hour of Code is an international program that exists that really it harkens back to the days of Drop Everything and Read. It's an hour where children take part in an hour of coding activity for 1 hour during that week. And we're happy to say that we ran that program in every elementary here at the city at different grade levels and a little bit in different ways. Feedback from the digital learning team was that Hour of Code, again, was held at every school in both an online and in an offline environment, which is kind of the fun piece of it. Although certainly you want to be on, using the coding apps that come with the Hour of Code program for kids conceptually to understand what coding is, especially at the elementary school. There were conversations in some buildings at the early elementary levels in particular about what coding looks like and the process of it. Kids at Montclair played the Moana coding game. At Bernazani, they not only took part in Hour of Code, but also discussed what someone who codes for a job or for a living does. At Snug Harbor, students took part in online and offline, as I mentioned, and enjoyed the Google background coding game. At Clifford Marshall, students in 3 and 4 focused on the Anna and Elsa and Star Wars coding games, and several other coding games that came up as well, and had a lot of fun with just experiencing that coding environment. As I mentioned, the event was a success. We saw the success, and we certainly hope to grow it as it goes forward next year. And if you haven't visited the ourcode.org website, certainly worth taking a look at. It's a real great site and really promotes that idea of coding for elementary age kids. As we look forward, we hope to continue to support digital learning during our Digital Learning Week in March for the Quincy Public Schools. We'll share further information about some of the programs and apps I listed above, offer PD around some of these programs, and also ask staff to take a chance and implement a new digital learning activity in their classroom. And some folks more level of comfort than others with digital learning and some of those apps out there. Some are more willing to jump in as they are. Looking at our second and third goals, our focus is a bit more specific. Our second goal for the year involved the digital literacy and computer science standards, and our third goal, as I mentioned, supporting Quincy Public Schools community around online testing. Last meeting, we began the process of unpacking the digital literacy and computer science frameworks at the elementary school level. They're broken up into 2 strands, a K-2 strand, 2 grade spans, K-2, and then a 3 to 5, and then 4 strands underneath each of those 4 topics that break down further standards in each grade level. Last meeting, again, I mentioned we began breaking those down, and we'll work to continue throughout the year to better understand the language in those goals, in those standards, and the expectations that come along with them as well. We also continue to work to support families, staff, and students, certainly in understanding and preparing for expectations of online assessments, and specifically MCAS 2.0, as it rolls out to additional grade levels this year, and including next year, specifically as I look at it at grade 3 for our students at Clifford Marshall and for the city. Understanding the state level standards around typing expectations, for instance, computer keyboarding, and readiness skills are important for our students to certainly understand as they take part in online testing going forward. So we're really at this point looking at best practices, how those are best taught and instructed upon in the elementary schools, and certainly what we need to do further to support our students in better understanding what testing in that online environment looks like. Finally, we hope to put into practice some of what we promote in the digital learning environment. We've created a Google Classroom to communicate with each other on that digital learning team. It's a great platform for us. It allows the teachers to communicate with each other, us to share notes and ideas, and also really practice some of these new, really tools that are new for us, digital learning tools that are new for us. So it really allows the team to communicate well through those tools. A lot of this, I would say, certainly it's in its infancy. It's newer for us. There's certainly a level of comfort that comes with it. I somehow feel old in the midst of this, and I'm not sure how that happened, but great tools out there, and I really learn every day from the staff, and oftentimes from the kids as well as they bring things to us. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. So for new members, I'm Edward Smith, Curriculum Team Administrator for STEM grades 4 through 12. I also serve as the co-chair of the middle and high school digital learning team with Madeline Roy. We have about 25 team members on the middle and high school digital learning team that represent, much like Nick said, a wide variety of teachers, administrators, through all content areas of middle and high school. We're in the middle of our second 2-year plan, so we're a little bit more established, but we have very similar goals to work together in a K through 12 digital learning district. So our first goal, or not our first goal, but the first one I'll tell you about, is that we want to assist the district in preparing the students for the MCAS 2.0, which we provided some trainings, both in person and electronic. Our media specialist did a great job preparing for the test last year, and we have that again as we prepare for science in the high schools this year. The second goal was to examine the digital literacy and computer science standards. And we took a meeting and a half to look through those standards, and the middle school and high school teachers. The consensus was we would need some more time to further align the standards, and we've established a small subcommittee of 3 middle school teachers and 3 high school teachers that are going to take a more in-depth look at that. And we've created a matrix that they will use to outline the specific courses, teachers, and grade levels where the standards are being taught. The third goal, which is actually the first goal, it's our priority that we hope to strengthen the learning experience for all students in the district by providing support to teachers and administrators and assist with the design and implementation of digital learning lessons and activities. So many of the things that the elementary team has been doing, the middle and high school teams have been doing as well. So we also had all schools celebrate with the Hour of Code. In one specific instance, I was able to visit classrooms at Atlantic Middle School where we had a collaboration between science, tech engineering, and media specialists. And it was really neat to see the kids getting coding in all of those content areas. And that was happening throughout the district. Last year, in February, we had a high school professional development where teachers could choose a variety of things, one being technology. Last year we had 85 teachers choose technology, and they participated in trainings including Aspen Gradebook, Aspen Pages, blended learning, flipping the classroom, multimedia conferencing, clickers, Vision Pro, Grade, a lot of the things that Nick had mentioned. This year we're doing something very similar, and we have 95 teachers signed up for 2 90-minute workshops of their choice where they can pick from approximately 15 of those technology trainings. This is in addition to all of the great trainings offered through the technology planning and training team. This is through digital learning and working directly with the principals at each high school. So again, a lot of the same trainings from last year that teachers can now sign up for, but also some new ones, including the Google Classroom training for both beginners and advanced learners. The blended learning and flipping the classroom is great, and it ties into what we do, being able to learn anytime, anywhere. So the flipped classroom is huge. Also technology tools for the 21st century, so there are some teachers that we still need to get on board. So we've got some advanced technology users, but also some people that we really want to get involved there as well. And this year, I'm not sure if I said, we have 95 teachers participating in just the technology section from the 2 high schools. We have our Digital Learning Week, so it's the District Digital Learning Week. There's a nationwide Digital Learning Day that happens in February, right in the middle of February vacation. So we've decided that we're going to modify that a little bit and make it into our own Quincy Public Schools. Why make it a day when we can have it a week? And get as many teachers on board as possible. So in the past, we've offered some after-school trainings, which we will again do this year. But our focus at the middle and high school level is trying to get as many teachers and students doing something that is digital learning based in their classrooms or at home with the flipped classrooms. So we've asked our team members to recruit 5 members from their school. So if we have 5 and it continues to multiply, and I believe in your folders you have a flyer that we've created that's going to go out. And if you go to the Quincy Public Schools website /digital learning, there is a sign up there. We hope it just becomes contagious and we can get as many teachers and students involved in our Digital Learning Week, March 12th through the 16th. At our last meeting, the team started to brainstorm a new technology and digital learning survey. The last time we did one was in 2015, which provided quite a bit of data for not only the digital learning team, help prepare their goals and action steps, but also the technology planning and training team use that data as well. So we're starting to develop our next survey, which we hope to put together, get some feedback on the technology that we have in our classrooms, what's being used, what's not, comfort level of teachers and students, and how we can plan our goals for the next 2-year plan, which will start in September, and also be able to provide some more training for our teachers throughout the district.
That's great. Thank you, Ed. Thank you to the co-chairs, team members, many who might overlap and serve on both, including Keith. And I just want to piggyback on what Nick said. We are very proud of the educators who sit on the digital learning team. They have taught us so much. Technology is going by so quickly, and what they bring to the table informs not only their colleagues, but the district members, the SLT members as well. So it's fantastic. In your folder, not only do you have a copy of our flyer, there'll be more information to come, it'll be on the Quincy website, but you also have the elementary team members, the goals, the meeting dates, and the same for the middle school and high school teams. Mrs. Lebo, did you want to take questions after each section, or should we go on to the next?
I think we should take the next session. Is that okay? Does anybody have any questions? I have a few. Does anybody?
Yeah.
Mr. Gentry?
I'm loving serving in the school committee because I have a million different questions and interests, and I spend a lot of time talking to my kids about a whole bunch of things, and so digital learning is something that interests me and fascinates me because 35 years ago when I graduated from high school, typing was kind of a skill, and there was a class in high school that you take it, and digital learning is just transformed, and toddlers have tablets and work on things. So how early, and I guess this is for Nick or whoever, how early does digital learning start?
So, in terms of, I would say, interacting with technology, we certainly have kindergarten, first grade students that interact with technology. As you referenced, typing, maybe a little bit more specific. Within those digital literacy standards, specifically they reference specific outcomes. Fourth grade is actually the first, third grade, I'm sorry, the third to fifth grade span is the first time that a specific standard is mentioned by the state, and it references essentially the grade span the child is in times 5. So for instance, a child being able to type 15 words a minute for third grade, and then fourth grade would be 20 and on from there, at least for the elementary standards. That's one of the things that we look at as we look at certainly something like an MCAS, for instance, or one of those online assessments from there. But in terms of so that speaks specifically to typing, but in terms of the online environment, as I said, we have kindergarten and first grade kids that are interacting with technology, sometimes Kindle, sometimes iPads, things like that. A lot of it comes from what the child is sometimes bringing to the school, interaction at home, as you mentioned, and certainly some of it is interaction. The more we start to understand these digital learning standards, the more hopefully we offer and provide in schools.
And I didn't know we were talking about all this tonight, which is wonderful, but I talked to the superintendent because just the skill of typing is transformed. I mean, the class that I took at Quincy High School, by the end of the class, I typed 70 words a minute, and that skill has stayed with me professionally, through college and grad school and professionally, and it's extraordinary because you need it in everything you do. And my kids were in middle school and high school, and my youngest has not mastered typing. And he after school today was working on a project today, and he doesn't know the keyboard. And so it's fast. I mean, I'm somebody that really supports kind of uniform at an early age to learn the keyboard and get that, because at least from what I've seen from middle school, at every level in the middle school, there's typing. There are projects that are due online. Is it Google Classroom that they do them and they save them to? And I think it would, when I see how much time kids put in on homework, just the efficiency of being able to type I mean, the time it takes to type, he'll write it all out. They'll write it all out, but the time that it takes to type to get it done is extraordinary. And I'd rather him spending his time thinking and creating and all of that than putting it on paper. And so a discussion for another night, but as a parent, I would love to see uniform training at an age level that you all say is the right age level, because when every teacher starts at a certain grade level is expecting a typewritten X to be done, then it's that grade level, the grade level prior, that everybody should have kind of that uniform typing skill down. And they can watch me type. I'm not a typing teacher, but the keyboard has lasted, and it's going to continue to last as long as we have an English language. People are going to be required in the workplace to type and do things. So, but I don't know, because the digital age has so changed everything at the education level, when the right age is to start. But I know my kids have assignments starting in middle school, maybe before that, maybe in 5th grade, that they have to type. So I'm just putting that out there because I'd like to at some point bring that up as a discussion collectively about uniform standards in typing and how we can integrate that at the right level. Because I honestly think that from a student achievement level, exponentially, it's gonna help them to get that skill set as early as you all think is the right time, uniformly across the board, and not have some schools do it more through media and other schools not do it. I just think some uniformity in that would be terrific. I mean, as my son said, and I said, I'm gonna bring this up at some point, he said, it's not gonna help me, Dad, it's a little late. But I do think that it will help students collectively as we move forward, especially in the digital age, as we're learning. I mean, it's not just typing that you do digitally. I mean, it's navigating the mouse and understanding the apps and going from here to there. It's much more to that, but that's going to be one thing that I'll continue to ask this group, and I hope that we make some progress in thinking about it and moving that way early.
So, any else? I just have a couple of questions. One is a follow-up to Mr. Guttrell's question. First of all, have you seen them type with just their thumbs? They're pretty good.
Yeah.
They're really good.
That's
I don't
enough.
like it, but
I
they're
don't
pretty
want to
good. It's a really bizarre thing to see, but as soon as that's attached to a piece of paper, that's what they'll be doing, because they're not interested in all this. But anyway, one of my concerns is similar to Mr. Guttrell's, because we've had this issue before. When you get to the standards at the high school level, who do they belong to? So we can do what Mr. Guttrell is saying, and we can put them in some place in the elementary and middle school. We've done that with other things, but then if a kid gets to the high school and they don't choose to take typing, or whatever it is, they don't necessarily get the standard. So that's for you guys to figure out, but I think that needs to be thought through. I haven't, I'm embarrassed to say I haven't looked at the standards, so I don't even know what they are in the high school level. But I think it's important, because kids have missed stuff before in the high school because they didn't choose to take. You know what? That was there. My other question is, and this is a little more philosophical, how much time do we want kids to spend on technology? And at what point does it become harmful or beneficial? And I know you guys aren't the definite gurus of this, but I'm sure there's people out there who are. But that also will inform us about how much technology we actually need. Because I don't want to have a Chromebook card in the classroom. I don't want that. I don't want every teacher to be able to use Chromebooks all the time. And I don't know what the balance is. And so, I mean, I just want somebody out there to be paying attention to what the balance is. Because some people are great at it, some people don't use it at all, don't use it enough. But I think that we all have to be careful about just how much of it we want. So that's my last question.
All right.
And if I could, Ms. Lugo, if you know, as Mr. Cottrell says too, if we want to do something here, you know, at your next teaching and learning to do it, or do you want to bring that, I mean, we could present, our team, could present something that would just show the history of maybe here, of where we were, where we are, where we need to be on both of those counts. I think maybe that would be a good thing for the committee to hear, and a good thing for us to.
Yeah, and I think it will also feed the technology team and get us to know
Yes.
whether a 5-to-1 or 4-to-1 is at.
Yeah, do that.
Good idea. Good idea. Thanks.
Okay, so our next item. So next we'd like to share with you two critical areas that we are focusing on for our district and school MCAS preparation. We do the whole gamut. We try to provide principals and our vertical and grade level teams and department teams with as much information as possible, probably more than they can even absorb. And then we support the schools and the teachers at their own level in getting them ready so that they can then prepare the students. And a lot of what we're doing is around the computer-based testing, because the paper-based testing, the format is similar, not exactly the same, but similar to the legacy MCAS. So, as a district that is a standards-based district, we build our lessons and our assessments and our units. We align them to the standards in the Massachusetts curriculum frameworks. So we're feeling good and confident that as much of those learning outcomes that are outlined in the frameworks are being presented in the classroom before the students sit down and take their MCAS test, which is as early as April. So Bridget and Kim are going to give you some information on two key pieces. We're going to start with the ELA test design. There are 4 question types for the middle school: multiple choice, multiple select, technology enhanced, and the narrative and text-based essays. This is a slide that came right from our presentation to the citywide PTO, and we have it up online. We can share it with individual PTOs, whatever parents need to feel comfortable with the MCAS test that their children are taking. At the elementary level, they include short response written responses for the elementary kids. Why not give them more? They're the youngest kids. But we're going to have Bridget really hone in on the narrative and text-based essays. This, it's worth a lot of points. It's the writing, which not all students enjoy doing. And so she's going to give you a little sense of what we're focusing on with our teachers.
Hi everybody, thanks for having me. Bridget Vaughn, I'm the ELA Literacy Coordinator for the district. And so I just wanted to highlight tonight for you the major changes to the new, somewhat new MCAS from last year to this year. So for this year, students that are taking the ELA MCAS will be all of the essays and all of the writing is focused on reading first. So it's all text-based writing, whether it's a nonfiction essay or a fictional narrative. What is new this year is that if you look at the ELA test design that's published, a passage set can consist of one passage, one text, a pairing, or what's new, particularly new, is a tripling. So students may be required to look and synthesize the information on 3 different texts and then compose a written response for that. So that's the first major change. The second major change is the length of the essays. So in grades 3 through 5, the expectation is 1 handwritten page or 2,500 characters. So what that means is they're worth 7 points each. So for grade 3 paper-based test this year, in their answer booklet, they'll have 1 page to write. And on the computer, they will have room to write 2,500 characters, and there is a character count that will count down, equivalent to 1 page. For grades 6 through 8, it's 2 handwritten pages, or 5,000 characters worth 8 points each. And so we'll show you in a minute an example of what that looks like on the computer. But basically, I think most of you are familiar, there's a text box there for writing, and as the students write, the character count goes down, and then if they get to the bottom, a scroll bar will appear, and they can continue to see their writing. How are we preparing our students for this? Currently, we have the released practice items that are available online from the Department of Ed. I spoke with the person in English Language Arts last week, and their best guess for new items to be released, she said about a couple of weeks, so we're thinking about mid-February, ELA new practice items will be available. In addition, we have, in the elementary level, professional development with Dr. Boyles in small group close reading instruction with rigorous text, and also new benchmark assessments that were created with a pilot group of teachers. At the middle school level, we have our Houghton Mifflin Harcourt new collections resource, which is it's a print book and an online resource as well. So they have digital ebooks, so students are very comfortable using these tools in the classroom and at home. And collections also offers online composition experiences that the students can have. In addition to that, we are training our teachers and students with the computer-based tools so that they feel really, really comfortable with the computer-based tools that are specifically for MCAS, so that when they go to take the test, nothing is unfamiliar for them. And we also offer before and after school programs for targeted students that may need some extra support or enrichment. And so here it is, the example. This is a text-based, computer-based essay sample from grade 4. And if you notice on the left-hand side, there's a text on fear factors. And then prior to, at a previous screen, there was a folk tale called Conquering Fear. So when they get to this last page of these 2 texts, their task is on the right-hand side, and there's the box there that they would type in. And you can see the synthesis here based on the article and the folktale. Write an essay explaining how fear can affect people. Use information from the article and the folktale to develop your essay. So students would be practicing toggling back and forth between the two texts for that passage pairing.
Thank you. Okay, so in terms of the math test design, there are 5 question types for all students grades 3 to 8. I'm sure that you've heard of some of these, and it wouldn't surprise you because it may match your own feeling, but for the most part, the kids' favorites are the regular multiple choice, the traditional, the one selection, and they are now becoming pros at the technology-enhanced items where they can drag and drop or resort items for a question type. But Kim tonight is going to talk to you about an item type that has historically given us some trouble, which is the constructed response. That is communicating your mathematical thinking in words as well as in calculations. It can be pretty rigorous, and she'll go over that with you. For years, we've sort of chosen it as both a district goal, and many of our schools have, to try to get the kids more comfortable with these type of items so that they gain more points. So you'll hear teachers talk about, is it the math content? We thought we covered this. We gave them some rigorous problems. Is it perseverance? They're sort of puttering out as in one question, they have multiple parts. So Kim's going to give you a little information on this particular type.
Hi, so I'm Kim Quinn, I'm the team administrator, K-8 from math. These constructive response questions were formerly known as the open response questions. And when we take a first look at them, they look very similar to the ones that the students have had to deal with before. They're multi-part word problems. Part B typically connects to or depends upon part A, and then part C really brings it to that next level. It's a more challenging problem and really digs deeper into what they're testing. And this is where we're finding that our students are starting to struggle at. If they're not getting that 4-point answer, if they're only getting a 2 or a 3, it's the part C where the challenge is happening. So our focus this year with our teachers has been word problems in general. And one of the things that we have shared with the teachers is, one of the things is 3-act problems, where they give a little video clip, and that first act is very much entry level for all students to be able to access, and they're estimating and they're noticing and wondering, and then act 2 brings in a little more rigor, a little more information, and then when we get to act 3, that's really where it all kind of comes together, and that more challenging part they're exposed to. So what are some of the differences that we start to see between these questions? Because there are some differences. So I need the next slide. If we look at, on the left-hand side is the computer-based 4-point solution, and on the right is the paper-based 4-point solution. So the answers are the same for A, B, and C. But if we look at them, other than part B, which looks pretty much the same, part A and part C look very different when they have to enter it into the computer. So that's one of the things that when Bridget and I go out and we talk to the teachers and we talk about some of the challenges with the online testing, we point out to the teachers that for a lot of students, if they were going to answer this question and they're all going to get paper and pencil to work it all out, it would look like A, but they can't put that into that box. So they have to change the way they're explaining it. They have to get across that same information, but they can't just do the same thing.
Order, it's the Budget and Finance Subcommittee meeting. First on the agenda, we have Mr. Mulaney with our quarterly budget status report. Thank you.
Before I begin, I just figured just go over briefly the process we do with quarterly budgets. The real work for the budget obviously begins before May, but we look towards building our budget, work with the funds that the mayor gives us, with approval from you people. And at this point, we're just looking back and seeing, do we have enough money in the budget to finish out the year without incurring any deficits? So the first 2 budgets, quarterly budgets, not a significant amount has been spent yet, but so we're looking at what types of percentages are remaining and will be sufficient to get through. And so as we go through the lines, I'll be letting you know line by line what those amounts, percentages remaining should be, and if we're in good shape. And we'll start with the budget is laid out similar to the way we make the budget, the famous banana chart. So we start with the academic classrooms and, okay, this is a chart. So anyways, we'll start with academic classroom teachers. As of December 31st, 2017, there were 8 bi-weekly payments. Professional staff with the remaining 18 payments to come. So at this time in the budget cycle, there should be approximately 69% of the budget available to get through the year. So there's currently 69.76% in that line. So that's obviously sufficient to get through, including the anticipated level changes that incur in February. The longevity line has a balance of $27,450. We use that for retiring teachers. They are able to buy back 30 sick days, so it's a cost of approximately $14,000. So that would cover approximately 2 teachers, retiring teachers. This line used to be significantly higher. It was cut in past years. And what we found is that it's not enough for the usual amount of teachers to retire, but the savings that we wind up in the other salary line areas cover it. So if we only needed 69%, there's a 1% available from the regular line, there would be sufficient funds to cover the retirements. So in academic programs, again, it's the same thing. It follows along with the academic classroom teachers. Approximately 69% of this line should be available on December 31st, 2017, and there's currently 69.04% of the balance unexpended. So again, should be sufficient funds to get through the year. Moving on to academic support, the instructional line follows closely along with the academic classroom teachers and academic program teachers. Currently, there's a balance of 67.32% remaining. This substitute line is expended over 21 pay periods instead of 26, and the summer program is fully expended. This causes the percentage to be lower. So if you exclude those 2 line items that are included in that instructional line, there's approximately 71% available. So again, there's sufficient funds to get through the year. Most of the administrators, most of the clerical and the administrators should have approximately 48 to 49% expended based on a 52-week pay period. There are only 25 pay periods for the first half of the year, so there will be 27 in the remaining. That's why it's not basically 50% at this point. As you can see, most all of them are right at that 51%, 52%. The aides, the principals follow very similarly to the teachers. They should have, they have a 26 pay period. The 2 high school teachers, principals are 52-week administrators, so they're paid over 52 weeks, so that brings that percentage down slightly. So again, we're right where we historically have been. Aides are paid over a 40-week pay period, so at this point in time, in the cycle, they should have approximately 60% remaining, and we're at 56%. Now this is a line that we usually wind up in deficit in, primarily due to students who are moving in and require a special ed aid. So we have a number that come in during the year that will have an aid. So that's typically a line item that by itself will go into deficit, but there's usually savings in other salary lines. So overall, we seem to be, I think, in very good shape as far as the academic support. Now, non-academic support, excuse me, at this point in the budget, again, it's the 52-week employees should have the same percentage available going forward, because only 25 pay periods have occurred. And then we begin to get into other pay periods that are like 40-week ones and longer for the clerical. So currently, as you notice, the clerical is at 55%. That's more than sufficient to get through the year, so I'm anticipating there will be a surplus in that line. A lot of it's due to some breakage that we had this year. The custodial was right on target, as well as the maintenance. Security guards are paid over a 52-week period, so that works out the same. The aides, again, at 60% are fine. Drivers get paid over a 180-day period, 40 weeks, so that's a sufficient amount right now. So all in all, we seem to be in good shape. We're going to be closely monitoring the overtime lines going forward, just to make sure if we can find some savings in those, without hampering any of the needs that we have for the schools or for keeping everything clean after events. But Kevin Segal does a good job. He has the largest overtime line with custodial. So I think all in all, on the salary side, we're in pretty good shape, very good shape to make it through the year, including the anticipated increases in level changes for the teachers. On the expenses, these percentages that we have right now remaining are very similar to what we've had in prior years. The main areas of concern in academic expenses and non-academic expenses are special ed expenses. We currently have $12 million budgeted. I anticipate that we'll be expending more than that. We'll be applying for extraordinary relief for circuit breaker. We've had a couple of new cases coming in, just to show you that it doesn't take much to throw this line off. 2 students who were not Quincy students in prior years, who already outplaced people move into the city, and we've just, for those 2 individuals, the students, the bill is over $450,000. So it makes a big difference. The circuit breaker will help in following years because they always lag a year behind in the reimbursement. But they do allow you to go a little negative deficit spending in that line to cover the situations like this. So it won't be an issue where we have to go and take money from another line to cover the special ed expenditures, so we should be in good shape as far as that goes. So the academic expenditures, we're right in line with what we usually are. Areas that we have a significant amounts not spent yet in the supplies and the textbooks. Historically, we wait at certain times for new textbooks, and we're working with Maddie on those. A lot of them come out when we look at getting them in for the next year. We have to buy them this year for next year, so we have to have the money available this year. Otherwise, we won't get any textbooks in because it takes so long to purchase them. There's big lead time. So we look at what we're doing and try and purchase a lot towards the end of the year. So as far as that goes, historically, all these percentages are right in line, and I don't anticipate the need to transfer any funds into any of these currently. The utility line is still relatively early in the heating season. We had a significant reduction in the electricity last year. We reduced it by $400,000 on the anticipation of having some significant savings due to Solar City. So we're still working with the city on that, and I think we're fine as far as utilities go. The transportation repairs, we've had, as you're aware, of an issue with the bus yard, and several buses were damaged. We're looking at another transportation line, which is a $90,000 line in our budget that we typically use to purchase new vehicles. I've been working with Mr. Drakey on a wish list of what he wanted. We have approximately $34,000 worth of bills from repairs for parts, for repairs from other vendors. So we're looking at, if we have $34,000 in expenses now, give us a little cushion of another $4,000 going forward. So we're going to be requesting later that we transfer $38,000 from a transportation line, which is usually for purchasing them, to the repair line. So again, it won't be affecting any other department in the school system. And then all the rest of the supply lines are typically fine. We always try to save a little towards the end in case we need to make any transfers. But we obviously feel right now that we're in pretty good shape. So right now, I don't see any major problems just getting through the school year. Certainly not having to ask for any additional funding. And then hopefully, again, we've been lucky enough with some salary savings from attorneys and what have you, that leaves of absences that will be coming to you in May and June with requests to transfer funding from other lines to basically help build the budget this year, to expend on. In the past years, we've done it on technology. So, currently there are sufficient funds. And the final item is that recommended action. Obviously, we're not going to vote on it now, but we just felt to have you aware that we're going to request that $38,000 be transferred from the transportation rental vehicles and put into the transportation maintenance.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Guttrow?
Quick question, Jim. So the budget that you're going to transfer from is traditionally for the acquisition of vehicles?
Yes.
And how much is in that usually annually?
90,000, it was significantly more several years ago. It was reduced, and the mayor's help on the capital improvement plan, we got a significant number of new vehicles the last time, so. This is, usually it's just for, to try and replace one or two every year as we're going forward.
And when is that money usually spent?
Again, with the long lead time, we're kind of conservative with that. We usually spend it towards the end of the school year in case we need it for special ed transportation or something else. And then that gives us a chance to look, and there's a long lead time on a bus, buying a bus. So it gives us a chance to look at, acquiring them, getting ready for the next year and building the budget. If it's something that we really need, we'd have to look at it in the budget building process next year.
So there's 90 and it's a 38 transfer. So is there a balance if there's special ed?
Nothing else has been spent out of this yet.
Oh,
The full 90,000 is available.
thank you.
So I don't think that we have to necessarily vote on it now, Jim, but I'd like to make a motion that we do vote to approve this transfer and bring it back to the school committee.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And on the motion, I would like, could we at some point in time get from you or Mike a list of all the buses that we have?
Sure.
What they are?
Sure, yeah.
How old they are?
Yep, I have that.
Okay.
Yeah, that won't be a problem, so I'll have it for the next meeting.
Maybe the transportation and safety meeting.
Okay, that's fine.
Any other questions? Seeing none? Okay, and that was the only item on our agenda, so
Thank you.
meeting adjourned.
Thanks.
Oh, you did, thanks.